The natural tendency by many Western politicians to find the common ground, to negotiate, to see how we can avoid this magic word escalation. The best way to escalate is to show weakness. When you face the predator, you have to look in the eyes. You have to take a stand. If you show your back, you're dead.
As a culture reporter, I'm always thinking about this war in cultural terms, yeah. Especially about these like centuries old ideas about Russian soul or not provoking the Russian bear that the West has kind of popularized over the centuries. Have these ideas culturally inhibited the West when it comes to how they face Russia during the war?
There was an imperial mindset that never went away, and I think there was a mysticism of Russian soul that was popular in Russia, and I think a lot of people who read Tolstoy, especially Dostoevsky, they were kind of mesmerized by the idea. But I think it's looking for a black cat in dark room, and it simply is not there. So that's a problem. So I remember that when I was much younger, it's one of my older friends, great thinker, Yuri Afanasyev, if you probably remember the name. He kept repeating that Russian literature, the great Russian literature, was one of the most fertile sources of Russian nationalism. It's imperial, the setting up this imperial mentality, and instinctively I opposed it. But I think tragically, the imperial matrix is still very much inside. When we celebrated the end of communism, we failed to understand that the communism was just the cover up of this matrix, which was still imperial. And it could be Tsar, it could be Bolsheviks, it could be Putin, but at the end of the day, it always appears on the surface. So we go back to the early days of communism. So Stalin beat Trotsky because Trotsky dreamt about this global revolution and using Russia as the locomotive to destroy the wall of oppression of capitalism, while Stalin recognized that it's just about building power base in Russia, and very quickly adopted nationalism as one of the most important elements of his power grab. So as long as this idea survives, so that Russia has this kind of messianic mission, nothing will change. And you have to kill it by visual shock. And so the best one, actually probably the only one, that will offer Russia a chance to be reformed into a normal national state, national in a normal sense.
One might say that living abroad for a long time from one's home country can either, deepen or distance their understanding of where they come from. How would you say it's been for you?
So seeing from the distance, you can be more objective. My first warning about Vladimir Putin and potential dangers, dated January 4, 2001 in the Wall Street Journal. So when he launched his attacks on free media, on NTV. And again, I immediately picked up his phrases that once KGB, always KGB, restoring of Soviet anthem. I already saw the signs on the wall, and then he kept moving in this direction. What's tragic is that even today, after so many blood being spilled, we still have people that in the free world, they're trying to find the kind of compromise, middle ground, how to come back. So this is not recognizing is you can't negotiate with this kind of evil for a simple reason. He knows this is a war for destruction. This is not a war for territorial gains. Giving a piece of Ukrainian territory to Putin doesn't change anything in his calculations. It's basically, it will make inside his appetite. Because the goal for Putin is, one of them, includes destruction of Ukrainian statehood, because Ukrainian statehood is one of the elements of the world order that he wants to destroy. Poles understand it, Baltic nations understand it, the Finns understand it for obvious reasons. But you still see that's the natural tendency by many Western politicians to find the common ground, to negotiate, to see how we can avoid this magic word escalation. They found the word escalation, it's absolutely ridiculous, because the best way to escalate is to show weakness. When everyone knows that when you face the predator, you have to look in the eyes. You have to take a stand. If you show your back, you're dead.
Do you think that there's any legitimate fears that a lack of decisive Russian military defeat could further radicalize pro-war sentiments in Russia?
I don't think there's a very powerful pro-war sentiment in Russia. I think it's more like, accepting the war as something inevitable. There's very little opposition to war, and I think a lot of people they go along. I don't think there's the same fanatical belief in an idea like was in Nazi Germany or in Stalin's Soviet Union, because there's no real future there. But you have to comply.
Recently, you made an interesting thread calling out Yulia Navalnaya's dual language commentary about the fall of Assad. In Alexei Navalny's posthumous memoir, he attributes the start of the invasion to corruption and economics, and this is why Putin wanted to hang on to power, and not about cultural reasons and the destruction of Ukraine. Ilya Yashin also has talked about the war in economic terms. Why do you think they address the Russian public condemning Russian aggression in almost purely economic terms and not moral?
Because they live in this paradigm, good Putin, bad Putin, good Tsar, bad Tsar. They had no interest of eliminating the imperial nature of Russian state. So this is a fundamental difference. And when I say Russian opposition against what? So it's trying to reduce everything to Putin and his entourage. It's wrong historically, because it's the real foundation of Russian aggression. It's Russian empire. It's imperial mindset. You can definitely talk about corruption. By the way, corruption actually helped Ukraine, because if not for this corruption, Russian army could be much stronger. I mean, thanks to Russian generals who were so corrupt and stole probably half of the military budget that has been spent on. So that's why Ukraine could survive.
Do you think this lack of ability to disengage from this imperialist mindset is why they insist on calling it Putin's war and not Russia's war?
Absolutely. That's the point. So it's Putin, not on my knowledge that Putin personally killed someone. Probably he did early on, but he gives orders. He keeps giving orders, and the orders being executed. And again, I have not heard about mass desertion. Some desertion, but not mass desertion. So that's these orders being executed, and also the many acts of cruelty. They show that it's not just Putin. It's a mentality.
What would you say was the biggest failure of the Russian opposition leading up to 2022?
I think the last moment where Russian opposition had a chance, historical chance to change things, was back in 2011, 2012, after Putin returned to power. We couldn't generate enough momentum, the protest on the streets of Moscow. It was over. I mean, and they began a political prosecution of the opposition. Putin was firmly in power, and these opposition activities, that had no clearly stated goals and couldn't change anything inside the country, they created the wrong image in the free world. And you still have these people pretending they're operating in Russia. It's okay. Obviously, it's about funding. So you have still millions and millions of dollars being wasted on these fake activities in Russia, because the same organizations that never did anything useful in Russia, now they're in exile, still pretending, and they pretend, we have to demonstrate it. And you look at the demonstrations, they try to get us to, we are against the war. I mean, still against the war. We must support Ukraine winning the war. But you never hear them saying Ukraine must win. It's all about we have to stop the war. But maybe Putin also wants to stop the war now at this point. So it's again, there's no common ground between us. So it's of course it's not good, because it's bad optics. But still, the majority of Russian opposition or people who believe they're in opposition, they are anti-Putin. But they still believe in the idea of good Putin. So basically replacing bad Putin by good Tsar. Russia must be defeated, and we'll see what comes next.
We here at the Kyiv Independent are not stopping for a second to bring you what you need to know about this war and about the world processes that affect it. But we need your help. For as little as the price of a cup of coffee, you can join our community of thousands of members who form the core of what makes our work here in Ukraine and across the world possible. To support independent journalism and join us in this fight, become a member now by clicking here. Thank you.